Hello? Hello?
Podcast Network Asia.
Welcome to She Talks Peace, a podcast that highlights the role of women peacebuilders around the world in bringing lasting peace and security to communities. Eavesdrop on their communities and get to know their stories. From the Philippines to Malaysia, from Indonesia to Palestine, from Myanmar to the United States. Their dreams and hopes for a world without violence and a world where every woman and girl can be whoever she wants to be. Hosted by Amina Bernardo, President of the Philippine Center for Islam and Democracy. This is She Talks Peace.
It is a divine fact that we are all created different. And further on, the Revelation explains, God could have created as one person, as one community, but He did not. Why?
Right.
Because He wants us to get to know each other. How do we get to know each other? Through dialogue, right?
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of She Talks Peace. I'm Amina of the Philippine Center for Islam and Democracy, joining you from Manila and hoping that you're over the holiday seasons. I'm here with my co-host.
Hi, everybody. This is Ayesah, and I'm joining you from Kota Kinabalu, Sabah, Malaysia. Hi, Amina. How are you?
So far, so good, Ayesah.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. So you've been cooking barbecue, huh? Up in the mountains.
Yes, yeah. We were very lucky that on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, we rented a house facing this beautiful view of Mount Kinabalu. So that's where we had our barbecue with a fantastic view of Mount Kinabalu for 2 days. How about you, Amina? How was your New Year's?
Well, not exciting and not as much fun, I guess, as you. My kids, my husband and I, we had early dinner. Can you imagine? Dinner at like 6:30 because we wanted to go to this.
That's really early.
Oh yeah, this nice Japanese restaurant, which was so booked, Ayesah. So we had to go. We had to go like at 6:30 because we wanted also to have an early dinner because we were going to go to my mom's place. We always spend New Year there and be with her. But I don't know if it's being a senior citizen, Ayesah. We went home early, and I was asleep before midnight. But my children woke me up just to greet Happy New Year. But you know, Ayesah, even as we're having a nice time with family, fighting doesn't recognize holidays, Ayesah. Did you read about the news from Basilan that there was a group of Abu Sayyaf bandits that attacked an army detachment in Basilan? That was just last Sunday. And for our listeners, Basilan is an island province. It's very near my home, which is Sulu province, an archipelagic province. 4 were wounded, Ayesah. Do you remember Father Angel Calvo?
Yes, I do. We invited him over to Penang. He joined us for our Consolidation for Peace program for Mindanao. Yeah, I have great memories with Father Calvo. He is really a wonderful person who has been doing a lot of interfaith dialogue actually in the whole of Mindanao. He's very much a popular figure, very well respected also.
Yeah.
So what's happening with Father Calvo?
Well,
Father Angel Calvo.
Father Angel. We should tell our listeners that Father Angel, as we in the Philippines call him, is a Claretian missionary from Spain. And he came to the Philippines in 1972. Can you imagine? So, Ayesah, he's been with us for
when I was
over
born.
50 years.
When I was born.
No way. Really?
Yeah,
So
martial law. I'm a martial law baby.
He comes to the Philippines and he gets assigned to Basilan. And for you, Ayesah, and me, Father Angel is our go-to person for interfaith dialogue and peace building.
Yeah.
So he's retiring. He'll be leaving us.
Okay.
And
he's going back to Spain? Is he going back to Spain?
I think so.
We will miss him.
So, and I think our friends are organizing a series of, little parties for him. But unfortunately, it's going to be in Zamboanga. And I'm stuck here in Manila. But, Father, there was a book written about Father Angel's mission. And in that book, Father Angel said, and this was a long time ago, mid-70s probably, he said the Church of Basilan was so strongly shaken by armed conflict between Muslim rebels and government that they were forced to overhaul the church completely. So he said, we were forced to search out the deepest causes underlying it all, to look for urgent solutions, to create mechanisms to counteract the effects of cannons and bullets, to build a reconciliation that will last, to rebuild a road for peace. And his mission has been not just about helping refugees or preaching peace on earth, but he was actually interweaving disaster response, community development, building basic human communities, and very, very special interreligious dialogue. And that made me think, Ayesah, of your friend who is going to be our guest today.
This is a very busy lady here in Malaysia, our special guest for today, Amina. And as you said, he is a very important person because similar to Father Calvo, he has really been doing a lot in terms of interfaith dialogue, or more particularly known here as civilizational dialogue rather. In fact, there is a center that has been built at University Malaya where she has established, and which she has been very crucial in establishing this center for civilizational dialogue. So when we talk about interfaith dialogue or civilizational dialogue, the person that first comes to my mind especially, and to many Malaysians, is our special guest today, Professor Dato Azizan Baharuddin. So we're very lucky because, as I said, she's a very busy person, and we are so honored that she is able to join us for today. So shall I start introducing her formally, Amina?
Yes, please.
Welcome, Dr. Professor Dr. Azizan Binti Baharuddin. Okay, just for our audience to get to know more about our special guest. As I mentioned, I have known Professor Azizan, since I first came to Malaysia. In fact, I think that was sometime in 2003, if I am not mistaken, 2003, 2004, when I joined her, for some of the trainings that she organized about civilizational dialogue in University Malaya. And that was, in fact, the first time that I heard about all these discussions about civilizational dialogue. And I think that was also the time, when all these theses about Clash of Civilization by Samuel Huntington was very popular. So this was really a very timely work for University Malaya, to introduce this concept of civilizational dialogue. And for the many years that Professor Azizan has worked on this subject, she has also been very important in leading the Malaysian government and academics as they created, and helped in the drafting of an Islamic declaration on global climate change. In 2016, there was a UN, United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, and they also contributed to this framework. And then later on, Professor Azizan has also become a Director General of many of this IKIM. Okay, the Institute Kapahaman Islam Malaysia. It is an institution for Islamic understanding on Islam in Malaysia, and very important institution where she was a Director General there, and she was also a member of the International Bioethics Committee, or IBC, in Paris. So not only Professor Azizan has been holding important positions in academe and also in the public sector here in Malaysia, but she has been very much a contributor to Islam and discussions, and civilizational dialogue at the international venues as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's all welcome Professor Azizan. Prof?
Yes, thank you so very much.
To you.
Alaikum salam.
Welcome to She Talks Peace.
MashaAllah. So I'm overjoyed. Thank you so much, Sister Amina, Dr. Ayesah, for this wonderful opportunity to speak with you. And I think what you said about what I've been doing, Sister Amina, actually overwhelms me. Like I ask myself, has that been the way I spent my life so far? So I guess once in a while it's good to be reviewing what one has been doing in one's life, especially career. And after listening to you, I think I must conclude that I have been extremely lucky. Yeah, both sisters, both of you, I have admired also very, very much for all the peace work that you've done in the Philippines, in the region, and in the world. So unfortunately, I've not been able to really follow through that kind of work because what I have been put on my lap is also quite critical in the context of our society. So thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity and this invitation. And I hope that we may be able to exchange some useful information with one another with regards to what more we can do for not just ourselves here, but today we speak of the global village, right? So for everyone. And
it's our honor and pleasure.
Thank you so much,
Professor Azizan. But let me ask you. Ayesah mentioned Huntington's Clash of Civilizations. Yep. It doesn't get mentioned too much now. After 9/11 every day, somebody was talking about the Clash of Civilizations, making Islam the new enemy of the world. So I wanted to ask you, Dr. Azizan, what do you mean by civilizational dialogue?
Yeah. Okay. As you notice, we didn't use religious dialogue, interreligious dialogue. We didn't use the word religion because, fortunately or unfortunately, the moment you speak about religion, any religion, right, automatically you will find that there will be different interpretations by various groups within the same religion. So you will not want to get into deep theological debates when actually what is needed is human beings recollecting or reclaiming their common humanity. Right? So when you use civilization, it is much broader and it encompasses a lot more elements such as culture. Culture is such a simple word, but it's very meaningful. I mean, if you want to capture what someone stands for, I think it's much easier to look at the culture that he embraces rather than sometimes the so-called religion that he belongs to. So I say this with the greatest of respects because I'm sure there'll be many people listening to your podcast in the future. And to begin with, I would like to humbly apologize to all of them, any of them who might think that whatever I say in this podcast is not really to their liking. Because something else which we do not want to happen is fitna. fitnah. People misunderstanding you, misquoting you, and then viraling what you say that they don't like. So it creates more non-peace, or the opposite of peace rather than peace. So I really humbly beg everybody, because I think Taufik, Hidayah, enlightenment, it belongs to the Creator. Any of us, the Quran says, it can be a recipient to Allah's, the Creator's, enlightenment. So let's not be judgmental. So back to your question, why civilizational dialogue and not something else? Is because we want to steer our ship clear of all these kinds of issues. So let's speak, and then civilization, when you look at it linguistically, it comes from the word civitas in Latin, and tamadun in Arabic, which also means a state of being where you have already overcome state of barbaricness, state of chaos. So you're talking about some order in life. So already you start with a notion which is inclusive. Already you start with the idea that everybody can come on board and do the dialogue. And basically dialogue is about human beings knowing each other. And again, if some people of my own religion, for example, want to question me, I start with the ayat 13, Surah Al-Hujurat, where God says, from the first man and woman, we created you into different nations and tribes. So it is a divine fact that we are all created different. And further on, the Revelation explains, God could have created us as one person, as one community, but He did not. Why? Right. Because He wants us to get to know each other. How do we get to know each other? Through dialogue, right? So, and like you said, Samuel P. Huntington's theory is just so far away now. But as it was propounded by him, the world at that time really latched onto it. And the foreign affairs department of some countries, let's not name countries, really used it as a guiding principle.
Oh, like yes.
That is so, right. So the people in a certain part of the world are talking about the green peril, which is Islam, or the yellow peril, which is China. Right. So this was terrible. And I think in our region, Chinese civilization, the Indian civilization, the Malay civilization, have always been in a kind of state of peaceful coexistence.
I remember going to the US, invited by Asia Society, and we went to, this was in 2007, and we went to George Mason University and Georgetown University. Yes, I found out that this book by Samuel Huntington is a must-read book among the students. So that's how they really uphold, and try to perpetrate this idea that there is a clash of civilizations. But I'd like to ask also Professor Azizah here, because for younger people, this generation, our students, especially at the universities, who may not be conscious anymore that this thing happened, this idea of clash of civilizations actually was being, promoted in the past, 15 years ago, not too long ago. How do we explain to them that this dialogue is not merely about talking to each other? Because they might look at, for common people, dialogue to them is simply talking to each other. But what is really so important about this civilizational dialogue?
Okay, we go back to the word dialogos. Dialogue is from dialogos. Dia is shedding light. Logos is a kind of understanding about everything, about life. So I just make a small analogy. You look at my hand now, you see my palm. That's what you see on the other side. But that's not what I see from my end. What I see on my end is this. Something quite different. So what do I do if I want to see what you are seeing? I have to actually go to you on your side. I have to empathize with you. So this is in the realm of psychology. This is in the realm of anthropology. This is in the realm of sociology. That we must understand who we are as human beings. And then coming from a science background, I will add on, we are a trillion full of cells that actually the controller of them is not us. You have red cells, I have red cells. And if something goes wrong, we transfuse our bloods into each other. Right? We breathe in the same gas, oxygen. It comes from the same green leaf in Mount Kinabalu there or in Manila there. Amina has very nice plants behind her. Yeah. So it's the same oxygen. So then we go back to, okay, this is another issue, right? Some people say that, okay, your worldview proceeds or comes from your Quran, your revelatory knowledge, right? Ours, no, we are atheists. Fine, but this is why I think science play a major role. Yeah, put our revealed books aside. Yeah, but here and now, what are we utilizing? What are we experiencing? Nature as it truly is, right? So do you deny
shared planet?
Precisely. So common humanity. So dialogue is like it's a part of life, and to do dialogue, it has to be a desire to get to know, to understand, from which arise empathy, from which arise love and compassion and mercy, right? Which is another set of things that we need. Now we talk about vitamins, vaccines, right? We talk about the physical things that we need to consume, but we also need to consume something else that are live in nature. That is not physical in nature. We are smiling to each other, right? The act of smiling entails the physical movements of our muscles, but more than that, something from the heart, which everybody is quarreling. Is it here, you know? But we all have hearts, kalb in Arabic, right? So today, lo and behold, this is why I love this subject called religion and science. And by religion, it's not just Islam. Okay, scientists are telling you that actually the brain is more intelligent than the heart is more intelligent than the brain. In that there are circuitries that there are connections inside the heart, the communications between cells and whatnot, receptor cells, that happens very quickly, and the heart apparently does not lie. So what you feel actually is real. So I think this is very important in peace work. More often than not, you deal with people's feelings and emotions, perceptions, which at the end
agree.
of the day, yeah. So what was the question just now? Sorry. What's the big deal about dialogue? Dialogue is a science. Yeah, talking to each other, how are you, and what's the weather? That in itself is a kind of communication already, you know. And some scientists have made a kind of experiment with 3 plants. Amina, one you talk, you curse it every day, and you have another one that you say nice things to it every day, and there's another
you
one
talk to the plant.
Leave it alone. Guess which plant died? The one which was ignored. Meaning, even if people speak ill, not nice things to you, you need attention. Human being needs attention. And dialogue is about giving each other attention. And if you do serious formal dialogues, it's even more meaningful, right? I mean, there was a book launched last Saturday on the dialogue between Abdul Rahman Wahid, the former president of Indonesia, and Dasaku Ikeda, the president of Soka Gakkai International. So if you read through, it's just a record of they're talking to each other. And it began with, where did you grow up? What village? What was it like? What's the favorite flower in your village? And what's the significance of that? And they went through the war, and then they talked about their grandparents, what they learned from, and what they feel they want to do today, and what they feel about peace and all that. Yeah, the title of the book is Peace and Tolerance: The Wisdom of Generosity and something. Yeah. So this is dialogue. But of course, these two great figures took 7 years, from 2002 to 2009, to complete their set of dialogues. You know? But we don't do that, of course. But what my point is, it's very poignant, you know, it's very like touching. when the moment you understand someone where he's coming from, is that then at least you can say, okay, I understand why he's like that, and then it's quite possible to come to a conclusion where you agree to disagree without harming each other, right? And in the diversified world today, locally and internationally, that has to happen. Of course, all this science sounds very, very idealistic, but I think if you do a proper study, an empirical study out of 100 proper, true dialogue, I think easily 80% will tell you, 80% of the dialogues you would see has some impact. At least it would. Yeah, I think.
Better in theory than in practice, Dr. Aziz. And let me bring you to the international developments. I suppose you have been, like me, and I think Ayesah would also be equally entertained by the circus that's going on in the United States Congress.
Yeah.
The whole of last year was crazy. This year, in their election for the Speaker of the House, where almost unprecedented, they took 15 rounds of voting before the Republicans could select their Speaker. I mean, it's insane. And they were being held hostage by a small group of very right-wing Republicans who have all been accused of promoting a lie that their leader, Trump, won the elections. So now you've got the powerful U.S. Congress. The majority is Republican, the Speaker is Republican, but being hostaged by this group of election deniers who have been peddling all kinds of untruths. In a situation like that, Dr. Azizan, how is it possible to have a dialogue of these leaders, the Republicans and the Democrats? I mean, how do you break through? Or is that an impossibility, Dr. Azizan?
Yeah, this is why I think we bring in the word civilization back in. Are you civilized or are you not civilized? And we need to know. Sorry, earlier on we talked about how we are rebels, right? I think one special feature of many women is that they are mothers, they are wives, besides being professionals, right? Like one simple example I make is when you spill coffee, what do women like us do? We don't order someone to go and get something. We quickly take our handkerchief or tissue and just mop it. That's just the way we are. Maybe it's in our DNA. So I think I can comment many things there, but all I want to say is that nationally, the people over there will have to think. They have to sort it out. Certainly, there's no dialogue there, no possibility of dialogue. And like we said, that's why we cannot sit. We don't hang the word dialogue in mid-air just by itself. No, it's civilizational dialogue. So you have to come to terms with what it means to have adab, to have. We speak about SOP, right? Standard operating procedures. What is that all about?
That's right.
How come there's no SOP somewhere? And then we talk about corruption, right? So in some countries in our region, for example, corruption is taking money illegally and all that. But I think corruption is also denying what is
true, what is fact,
what is facts, what is true. That is also corruption of the highest order. That's hypocrisy. That's even worse. And the review books are telling us this is the worst kind of behavior of the human being a hypocrite. And if I'm not mistaken, if you are this way inclined, if you believe in the book, Allah says the place of the hypocrite is even worse than the those that that do other things. They belong to the lowest heaven and lowest fire. even though outwardly, they seem terhormat. What's terhormat? They belong to
Respected.
they belong to that respected group, the educated group, right? The responsible group, the people with the power and all of that. But they behave that way. But in real terms, in true humanitarian terms, that's not on.
Yeah.
So I think what we're doing here is, thank you, to Amina for bringing this up, because dialogue is something deep. Dialogue requires you to have sincerity, a very difficult word to talk about today. Yeah, sincerity. What is the price of sincerity? Is anybody sincere? And in my country, for example, at the moment, there's some researchers that say that society is undergoing what is called deficit trust. A deficit of trust. Also empathy deficit. So many of those nice things we are all in deficit of, right? So what you just discovered, what you've just explained to us, I think it's up to the people, to the colleagues over there to talk it out.
This corrupted dialogue that we are witnessing in the United States Capitol. Do you think it could ever happen to us here? I mean, could that happen to our leaders in Malaysia, in the Philippines? What do you think, Ayesah? Possible? No?
I think, obviously all of our ASEAN countries, we are already experiencing, not only in our government, but also even among civil society, like even, among, as Professor Azizan said, all those educated and supposedly respectful, even whether we are academicians or whether we are NGO leaders, we see it happening every time. So that is why it's important for us, to educate our younger people, that what is wrong is really is wrong. There is no other way to it. What is right is right. So it's good that Professor Aziza brought that up. That this values, that the dialogue is also the dialogue practice is also teaching us.
That's the other keyword when you speak about dialogue. It's not simply, and this answers what Ayesah said just now. What's the big deal about dialogue? It is attached to values, and you have to sort out what those values are. And to begin with, we have to come to agreement. What values do we believe in total, in general, and what values we think belong to specific groups only. So that in that situation, we agree to disagree. But there's so many things we can agree upon. There's so many things we can agree upon. So, for coming from where I'm coming from, of course, the only faith or worldview paradigm that I'm familiar with is my own, right? So, I would want to share those. I would want to explain those using scientific terminology as far as I can. Right? But certain things I will not be able to. So, let me speak to my friends who belong to another worldview, and so on. Lo and behold, we will discover that, this. We will come to see there will be so many things that we believe in general, right? And we can move forward with. The saddest part is because we have been so polarized, we have allowed ourselves to be polarized because of extreme kinds of interpretations or whatever it is, right? We have neglected to dialogue and to interact with others, to get to know others. So the young ones are actually complaining. They have not been exposed. They only know their group. They only know their language. Even that, it is not too well either, because technology has also spoiled the situation. Because the young ones in all groups now are going into the technology, into the what do you call it, into the internet. Yeah. And they're getting all kinds of information, which I think their grandfathers or grandmothers or even parents, would not agree totally with everything that they have access to. See what I'm trying to say? And then they have this powerful technology to I don't know, do what with as well. So
okay, Professor Aziza.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Okay, go on. Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to quickly ask also Professor Azizan, because I'm sure our audience will be interested to find out from Professor Azizan, knowing that Malaysia's society, is very multicultural. And then at the university level, actually, Amina, in all the public universities, we do have a required course on Tamadun Islam, on Islamic civilization, and also ethnic relations, to foster greater understanding among the different races and ethnic groups in Malaysia. But looking at the Malaysian experience, Professor Aziza, how do you look at the health of the civilizational dialogue in Malaysia today?
Oh, and added
mm.
added to that, Dr. Azizan, now
Yeah.
that you have a new prime minister
Yeah.
who used to be Minister for Education, as well as used to be the leaders of the youth wing of AMNO,
Mm.
is he going to be supportive of these measures for civilizational dialogues in Malaysia?
Yeah. Okay. Very important questions.
We've given you a headache.
I have answers. No. I have answers that's ready to jump out of myself, but I need to think it through.
Be a troublemaker.
No. Very quickly and very humbly, what is the health of civilization dialogue in Malaysia? Good. Actually, it's very good. It's just that people don't pay attention to it because they think it's not important. Because we take unity for granted. Polarization is bad in some places, but I think in some other places it's okay. People are people. I mean, in Islam we talk about the rights of our neighbors, and as a Muslim you would have Hindus, Buddhists as your macro neighbors. Some of them might be living right next door. You do not deny them their rights. You have to be nice to them. You help them, and and vice versa. So there will be good relations going on. And then, of course, dialogue, you also speak about dialogue of life in that, like, say, I go to the market. Who do I deal with? People of all sorts, right? And there will be goodwill. There'll be relationships between you as the customer and he as the fish seller or chicken seller, whatever it is, right? And so on that score, I think it's not, and there'll be, if you research it, there'll be indices of all sorts, happiness index, harmony index, and they're all saying that we in Malaysia, all right. But going to what Sister Amina was saying, yeah, I think we will be in good state. We are looking forward to everybody is still settling down. I think the general election is quite recent, isn't it? Yeah, so I think it's only fair for people to just sit back and relax and take oxygen, breathe deeply. And I don't mean that as a kind of simple dictum. I mean that also intellectually. I mean, sit back and review. And then I think we sometimes move too fast in terms of what's going on. And I would want to be optimistic. And I think every day we need to look forward to what can we do. If you list what are the things that you don't have, that you don't like, there's plenty, isn't it? I think we need to shift to a kind of paradigm where, yeah, we know that, but what can we do in the here and now, no matter how small? I think everybody knows this. I think across the civilizations, everybody have those values, right? So as I said, I marvel at the two of you because you are right there in the thick of things vis-a-vis conflict resolutions and all of that. But on our part, still being an academe, still tied up to, still at the intellectual level. But we warn ourselves all the time. Dialogue is nice in the dialogue hall. You sit on stage, you've got nice chairs. Yeah, everybody pat themselves and each other. But after that, the follow-through is what?
What's the follow-through?
Yes. So if, let's say, you have religious leaders dialoguing with each other, then the onus is on those leaders to go back to their communities and upgrade the thinking and the understanding and the well-being and the behavior. of their communities. And I think that one we need to work more on. And Alhamdulillah, I think the religious authorities in Malaysia, especially the Islamic religious authorities, they're speaking more and more about fiqh ta'ayush, peaceful coexistence. You know, as Muslims, they want to make sure that whatever theory or idealism you hang on to, you want the basis to be anchored in your revelationary text, yeah. And that's happening in a very nice, positive, engaging way. Of course, there will be limitations. You know, they will say that, yes, we do this, but we must be weary, Sister Amina, like you said just now, of the SOPs. So it's not free for all, because that will create other issues and situations. Right? So, last of all, do you want what you don't want? You don't want intra civilizational problems. So
That's
we
more
always,
serious.
that's right. We always also say the need for intra civilizational dialogue. There has to be some fact. I mean, if there are 4 mazhabs in Islam, for example, don't hide that fact. Celebrate it. And also I think humility, sincerity, compassion, mercy, and all of this come from religious background, religious paradigms. But the good news is these are now translatable. The narratives of these principles can be halfway empirical, halfway scientific, if not totally, you know. So that's the good news. The good things that we are fighting for, that we are working for, it actually is within nature itself. And this is the root of sustainability, these discussions today. Look at the SDG, 17 goals. Starting with zero poverty, zero hunger. My word, how can you have those without mercy and compassion?
Yeah. But going back to what you were saying about the sustainability of dialogue, I couldn't help but remember the other night we were at dinner, my children, my husband and I, and my son and I, my youngest son and I had an argument. I think it was about the casting of the movie, and so the argument went on for a while, and then my daughter said, "Mom, why don't you listen to what Pepe is actually saying?" So that caught me, and so I listened, and we weren't really on opposite sides. It was just a matter of appreciation of the casting of this movie, and I couldn't help but think about the importance of that, Ayesah and Dr. Azizan, listening. How do you make different groups actually listen to what the other side is saying?
This is the basic ingredient for a good dialogue. I think one of the questions that we were going to go through, we were supposed to be talking about that. That's why we said earlier on, dialogue is a science, meaning it's a body of knowledge, do's and don'ts, and the necessity. What is critical, one of the things that are most important is good listening, empathic listening. Sometimes you just need to listen, that's all. Sometimes all people need is for you to listen, that is all. And that's why I said the niyat, the intention is what? Is it to listen to yourself? Is it to want to win the argument? Which is all not in the definition of dialogue. It's after dialogue, you're supposed to be able to understand where the other person is coming from. Right. And that is all. And it's a bonus if the opposite can also happen. I mean, they also understand where you are coming from. Like, when you were arguing with your son, for example, the dialogue could have been good for him, because then he understands, why is my mom upset about this? So that is something for him to learn also, right? So there's always something. And that is why true dialogue, I think it's not easy. It's not easy. Firstly, like we said, we must embrace each other as a human being. And I think in Islam, your iman, your faith is not complete if you don't love the other person, wish for the other person what you wish for yourself. So this is easier said than done. And I think bottom line still is we need to dialogue with ourselves. Like every day we need to ask, what is it that I'm aiming for and all of that. Then when you're settled with that basic idea and notion, then you go out and dialogue with someone. But thank you so much for Sister Amina for bringing that up. That's very important, very very important, and lots
I
of
guess I
dialogue.
kind of
Yeah.
maybe I got used to being a mother of little children, and every time they do something and they won't listen to you, then the
Yeah.
ultimate argument is just because I said so, and that's it.
Yeah,
And
that's very,
grown
very
up.
true. You're not the only one like that. I'm sure lots of us are also like that. I'm like that. Yeah, it is our
So we have
student.
to
Yeah.
get over that
Sure.
feeling that
Sure.
you're the authority, you know everything, just listen to me,
Sure.
and that's it. As it turns out, you have much to learn
Yeah,
from
sure.
from
That's right.
younger people, from
That's right.
people
That's right.
outside your comfort zone. But I find, Dr. Azizan, that the skill of listening is so difficult to develop. So difficult to develop.
Yeah, but I think it's not impossible, and I think you and Dr. Aisha, for example, have been doing a lot of good listening. Of course, sometimes we have high standards with regards to that also, isn't it? I mean, like we expect ourselves to be much better than others as well in the regard of those things, of those skills, right? But I think every day, like Kaizen is saying, every day is a better day than before. And I think that's the spirit of it all. And bottom line is, we our humility increases every day, and I think humility is the other ingredient, is it not, in dialogue?
Yes.
Yeah. So you have to
Yes.
be open, you have to be listening, and for that you need humility. Humility in the sense that no matter how much I know, there's still a lot more that I don't know, and we apply this to our children, to our younger colleagues, to even our bosses sometimes.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm sorry to have to say that. Sometimes people who are your bosses, you feel that you know better than them, but then it requires you to
Right.
your part. Yeah,
Right.
to be careful about that. Sure. Yeah.
Ayesah, I received a message from our producer. Time check, 45 minutes. It looks like, as usual, we have gone over our time limit. So
Yes.
thank you so much, Dr.
Thank you so
Azizan,
much. Thank
for
you, sister.
joining us. But
Yes.
before we end the show,
Yes.
perhaps you have a message for our listeners. And I'm glad to say that since we started August 2021, we now
Yes.
have listeners in 93 countries. So I'm very,
MashaAllah.
very pleased. And I would like to
Okay.
thank our listeners for
Oh, fantastic.
staying with us and
Very
listening to
good.
us. So your message, Dr. Azizan.
Um, Firstly, I want to say all of us are important in this world. No matter what our circumstances are, we are meant to be here. There's a special purpose. Sometimes we are lucky in that our potential gets to be developed, but it's never too late. And for those of us who are in better positions, it's incumbent, it's an imperative upon us to help others reach their potential. And I think in the age where some people find it difficult to find meaning of life, right? And this is a good meaning, one good element in your thinking about what is the purpose of my life, which is to do good no matter how small. And in Islam, the good person is the best person is the person who does good to anybody, cats and dogs, environment, not necessarily to just human beings. Just do good, concentrate on doing good. And scientifically speaking, doing good makes you happy, makes you healthy. And what more do you want? So life is a journey, everyone says, yeah. So be it. And think every day is so precious. Every second is very precious in both the psychological, spiritual, and physical meaning of the word. So let's take life very seriously and focus on and think about what it is that we can do. And my special message is for those who are in the better position, Sister and Dr. Ayesah. I think we're not doing enough. I mean, that's what I say to myself. There's always more that we can do, even in little ways. So Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you so much once again, and I hope that you will be listened to by more countries. There's 193 countries in the world, I think. 186 countries. I hope the whole world will listen to you, inshallah. And congratulations.
It's very timely that we invited somebody like Professor Azizan to talk about civilizational dialogue, because it really reminds us that in many of the things that we do, whether it's human rights, peace, and conflict resolution, oftentimes we neglect that we are actually doing a dialogue process as well. So it's good, for us to reflect again on how do we make this dialogue more scientific and more effective, especially when we are, teaching it as well to our students. So it was a good session, Amina.
Yes, I really enjoyed that session. So, dear listeners, this is Amina Rasul of the Philippine Center for Islam and Democracy saying thank you for joining us. Hope you have a great year. And saying, I promise, Ayesah, I will do better at listening. Because one of my takeaways from our conversation today, dialogue is crucial if you really want to live in peace and harmony. But if you don't listen, no dialogue. See, that's why what's happening in the US is happening in the US, because neither side is listening to the other. So thank you so much, dear listeners. Do join us again next week when we will have another exciting guest on She Talks Peace.
She Talks Peace is brought to you in partnership with Podcast Network Asia and Podmetrics, the easiest way to monetize your podcast. For more information, check out their website at podcastnetwork.asia and podmetrics.co.
The views and opinions expressed by the podcast creators, hosts, and guests do not necessarily reflect the official policy and position of Podcast Network Asia, the hosts of the program, or other programs of the network. Any content provided by the people on the podcast are of their own opinion and are not intended to malign any religion, ethnic group, club, organization, company, individual, or anyone or anything.